In today's video, we're going to be going over the South for this video's faction deep dive. In the world of Terra Nova, the southern hemisphere is dominated by grassy plains, swamps, and dense jungles. The power which controls the South are the Allied Southern Territories, or the AST. The AST contains the Leagues of the South, the Mekong Dominion, the Humanist Alliance, and the Eastern Sun Emirates. These leagues are ruled by the Southern Republic. The Southern Republic claims that they are all equal, but they are not. The Southern Republic are the biggest out of all of the leagues in the Southern Hemisphere. This is partially the reason why they are able to conquer the other leagues and unite them under the banner of the AST. Out of the leagues in the South, the Humanist Alliance are the most technologically advanced. They have a lot of, well, at least a lot of brilliant scientists in the South, and they are working on some projects right now for the South. Um, These guys are the most watched over and kind of controlled by the Southern Republic. This was partially the result of Operation Long Night, a plan for the Humanist Alliance to free themselves from the AST, but it ended up in disaster, and those who got away just ended up joining New Coal. Second of the three conquered leagues is the Mekong Dominion. The Mekong Dominion is the economic powerhouse of the Southern Leagues. It is primarily ruled by rich business leaders and the CEOs of the biggest companies. They willingly help the Southern Republic as it is just profitable for most of them, or if not all of them. But like any CEO of a huge company, they like to push their own agenda. Whether it has to be through blackmail, choking out the competitor's business, or through violence, they will do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Lastly of these leagues are the Eastern Sun Emirates, a league ruled by nobility. They're kind of considered backward by the other Southerners. But as any kingdom, infighting is very common as they all vie for power and land and status. They are also slightly a bit more religious. Um, you know, but like any nation, the AST would soon be driven into conflict. St. Vincent's War, a bloody, brutal conflict which started as a battle for a wrecked medical ship. During this fight, they released a deadly plague. This disease didn't harm the adult soldiers immediately, but they became carriers, spreading it with every breath they took. When the soldiers returned home, the plague spread like wildfire among the planet's children. Within a short time, 5% of all children on Terra Nova were dead, and another 5% were left permanently injured. Instead of facing their shared mistake, the North and the South blamed each other. This led to a terrible war, not to conquer land, but simply to get revenge. Both sides attacked civilian targets just as much as military ones, and tens of thousands of people died. The war only ended because both sides were running out of money and soldiers. The Southern Republic's allies, the Mekong Humanists and Eastern Suns, pulled their support, and as a final push from the North, that convinced the Republic that it's time for peace. This war created a deep hatred between the North and South that still very much exists in the current setting right now, which would lead, and this would lead to both sides to keep developing their military further, which again would be a blessing as we would see shortly. As generations later, a new threat appeared that forced the entire planet to work together. An army from Earth, called the Colonial Expeditionary Force, or the CEF, arrived to reconquer Terra Nova. The CEF expected an easy victory, thinking the planet would be primitive. They were shocked to find a strong civilization with advanced walking combat machines called Gears. This war was named the War of the Alliance because the North and South had to ally with each other to survive, which had never happened before. Um, at first, the war went very badly for Terra Nova. The CEF landed a huge army of 400,000 soldiers and used their orbital fleet to bomb cities, which crippled the South's ability to make weapons. And the CEF pushed deep into the south, taking over several cities in the Mekong Dominion. Facing total defeat, the North and South put their armies under a single command. The turning point of this war came when Terranovan scientists built thousands of killer satellites. These satellites attacked the CES fleet in orbit, forcing them to pull back. While also this was happening, Peace River, a nation originally thought neutral, would attack the vulnerable supply lines of the CEF. This cut off the CEF ground troops from their supplies and backup. While on the ground, um, Again, the Southern defenders used their knowledge of the jungles and swamps to fly a guerrilla war, slowing the invaders down. A major bloody battle at the city of Baja destroyed a fresh CF army, but it cost the Allies 100,000 of their own lives. Eventually, the Allied armies surrounded the main CF base and forced them to surrender. The war was over, but the CEF fleet left behind over 100,000 of its own soldiers on Terra Nova. This war weakened all the southern links and made them even more dependent on the Southern Republic's military strength, solidifying the AST under the Southern Republic military's banner. Now, that's where we currently are for the South in the setting of Heavy Gear Blitz. Going on to the specific upgrades for the South, Um, just any military police models may be placed in general purpose, strike force, fire support, or special operation combat group units. And then two water vipers or two Caimans, again, they may be placed in general purpose, strike force, fire support, reconnaissance, or special operation units. Um, the South has a ton of sublists. One of them being the Southern Republic sublist. Um, It's just the veteran leader trait just allows you to get the vet trait for any commander in the force, just without it going against the veteran limits. Um, Secondly, the Pride of the South, commanders and veterans, with the hands trait, which most gears have, can buy a vibro rapier for 1 TV. Um, it will pretty much just increase its brawl stat by 1. And for all purposes, it's a light vibro raid. It just has react and precise. And then assault troops, infantry, and cavalry may purchase the brawler veteran upgrade without being veterans, meaning you pretty much just have them hit harder in melee. Um, then we also have political officer. You may select, one of your guys who's in commander, and for 2 TV, the political officer becomes an officer and can take place as a third commander within a combat group. Um, it starts with 1 command point, and you can just do what you do with command points. They will only be used for initiative if there are no other commanders. And for all intents and purposes, their initiative skill is a 5 up. And lastly, they are well funded. 2 models in each combat group may purchase a veteran upgrade without kind of going against that veteran limit or making them veterans. For our next sublist, the militia. Again, you can have veteran leaders, so you can purchase the veteran trait for any commander in your force without it going against the veteran limit. And conscription, you may add conscript trait to any non-commander, non-veteran, and non-duelist. So you're just normal Joe Schmo, if they do not already possess the trait, and this just pretty much means you just reduce the TV of these models by 1, and they have to be within 6 inches or else of their commander or combat group leader, other they start to take penalties. Then lastly, they get political officer, which again is you just choose a non-commander, and for 2 TV, they get 1 command point, and you only roll for initiative when there are no one else left. Our next sublist is the Mekong Dominion. Um, their first trait is Mekongese excellence. Um, all models in the combat group leaders force may purchase the veteran trait, and this is really good. It does not count against the limitations of veterans. The next they have Samurai Spirit, commanders and veterans with hands trait, which most gears have, may buy a Vibro Katana for 1 threat value. Um, it just increases their brawl stat by 1, and it's a light vibro braid just with react and precise. Next, we have Matsuke, military police models within 1 combat group. May purchase a shield plus trait for 1 TV, and the shield plus trait just works like in the normal shield, but it just adds 1d6 from attacks coming from the front arc, and it cannot be stacked with any other cover modifiers. Lastly, mercenary contract. 1 combat group in this force can be made from models from the North, South, Peace River, and Newcol. That they just must have an armor rating of 8 or less. Next, we have the Eastern Sun Emirates. So, iguanas just may be placed in general purpose, strike force, fire support, or reconnaissance. or special operation units. Secondly, we have personal escort. The Force Leaders Combat Group just may include an additional duelist, and they may come from the North, South, Peace River, or Nukol. And lastly, they get allies. They can have models from one of the three factions of North, Peace River, or Nukol. They cannot get veteran models from those factions, but they may upgrade models to be veterans. And lastly, we have the Free Humanist Alliance. Um, Two models in a combat group may purchase the vet trait, again, with just not counting against the veteran limitations. And then they have it so their veteran Sagittariuses, veteran Fire Dragons, and veteran Territory may purchase stable and or precise without being duelist, meaning you can be rolling 1d6 plus 1, or just plus 1d6, or just plus 1. And then they also have conscription, which again is just your normal Joe Schmo. You give this to them. It reduces their TV by 1, but if they are not within 6 inches, bad things start to happen. And then these guys are allies with Nucol. They can be secondary units, and they just cannot have any growl. Going on to common equipment. The three that I find that are just most common and widespread throughout the South are bazookas. They have 6 to 12 inches of optimal range and 24 inches of suboptimal. And I find these are really good. They have armor penetration 2 for the light version, all the way up to EP4 for the heavy version. And when this weapon hits, it really hurts. But you got to make sure you're probably not wanting to take pot shots with this. It's not being able to roll 2d6. You want to be making sure you're either stacking the dice or you're just rolling your standard 2d6. Next, we have autocannons. They're just 6 to 18 inches of optimal and 36 inches of suboptimal range. They can do burst or precise. They can split fire only if they choose burst. This weapon is very versatile because you can be rolling 2d6 in suboptimal, or 3d6 in optimal, or 2d6 plus 1 in optimal. Or if you're in optimal and you decide to split, the math just comes out where you can hit 2 targets and you get to roll 2d6 each. Then lastly, we also have Vibro Blades. They are armor penetration 2 and damage 7, and they can, go up to damage 9, EP4. I find that these are just kind of good, even if non-melee guys, if you just aren't able to do that damage or have like AP weapons, being able to get in melee and just at least being able to do 1 or 2 damage a turn is very nice. But then again, your melee is just dangerous because you can also get meleeed back or be within optimal range of some weapons, and it can really hurt. But moving on, we are going to stand out units. So, first we're going to start off with the Black Mamba. Literally any Mamba variant is good. This is probably one of the strongest units in the game because it's a heavily armored gear with armor 7 and agile. And it's pretty well priced. Like sometimes it ranges from 9 threat value to like 11 for or even 13 if you're getting really expensive with the variants. And just with the most South units, they're just great at filling any role you give to them. They're just amazing. Nextly, we have the Bushmaster Cobra. It's relatively cheap. It has 8 armor with React Plus, which allows it to either react for free or spend its React Plus thing to get to focus, which then makes it stable, and then it gets a plus 1d6. And then with like a heavy rotary cannon and a light field gun, you can like a heavy rotary cannon, you can shoot like 5d6, 66 with that with React Plus. Then light field gun, you have your AoE and your blast. So if you want to hit those units, it is really good offensively. And it's good for defense too. It's just very strong firepower, pretty much like an artillery platform. Then lastly, a Dart Jaeger. This is my favorite unit in the South's roster, period. They can be put in Reconnaissance Strike or general purpose combat groups, um, they have ECCM, which allows them to get 3d6 space when being shot at, which is amazing. And then they also have agile, meaning if it's a margin success of 0, they just dodge. So they're just very hard to hit, and they're very fast with 8 inches of movement. And they're only 1 threat value more expensive than your normal Jaeger. These guys kind of, in my opinion, kind of feel like a no-brainer for me. And their variants are really good, in my opinion. Though the one downside is they have armor 5 and also only 3 hull in structure. But I just feel with them being able to roll 3d6 without any other cover bonuses or any other just bonuses in general, having agile makes them very survivable, especially for their price point. The South's overall strengths and weaknesses, they just have tons of units with agile, meaning that a lot of margin sets of 0 things aren't gonna go through. Around 1/3 of their units in the South have airdrop, allowing you to start up further on the board. And then more than half of the units in the South can move faster than 6 inches. That's like their base. Their base more than one half of your units have at least 7 inches of movement. Standard. Combat speeding is just 7 inches. Again, they're just generalist force. All of their units are good at just doing everything. Um, but the one downside for this force is they have like 7 units that are dedicated to E-War. And not all of them are good, or some of them are veteran, or just not worth the price points. But in the end, you should play the South if you're looking to play a highly versatile force. This faction gives you the tools to adapt to nearly any battlefield situation, and you can rapidly across the table, seizing ground before your opponent can react or deploy in advantageous positions right from the start to set the pace of the game. Um, this just flexibility in general allows you to dictate the engagements on your own terms, whether you're playing aggressive or just defensively. And you're just kind of forcing your opponent to react. Thanks for watching. Signing off.